Ladies and gents, this is your last session of the day, and today we have a Beavertown Brewery Masterclass with Tom Rainsford. Sort your brand by sorting your culture. Tom, welcome to the stage.
Hello, how are we? I hope everyone is having a nice Thursday in Shoreditch. So, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take out your phone from your pocket or your handbag or wherever you might have your phone, and I'd like you to hold that phone up in the air, please. Can you take your phones out, please? Don't look that bad. It's all right, mate. It's all right. Don't look that worried. It's okay. I'd like you to hold your phones up. And then what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to unlock your phone. And people that have seen me talk before will know what's about to happen. And I'd like you to hand that phone to someone you don't know that's sitting around you, okay? So I'd like you to hand that phone to someone that's sitting around you, and I'd like them to open the photos and find a photo, and I'd like you to take one earphone off, and I feel a little bit like I'm playing in Lincoln Park in about 2009 with these headphones on. I don't know if anyone knows the Lincoln Park reference. If you do, we can be friends. I'd like you to hand it over, find a photo, take one earphone off and ask them a question about the photo. Don't look so worried. It's okay. Don't look scared, people. We are all people together. We can trust each other. This is all about trust. It is just technology in your hand. It doesn't matter. Okay. So, you can't leave on the phone stuff. Don't leave on the phone. They can't hear me. This is so weird, isn't it? It's like you're in a long-haul flight, right? It's bizarre. None of the people there can hear us. I can literally say, that man's shoes are awful, and he won't know, but we all know. Right? Well, we should say nice things. So, okay, don't worry about the phone thing. You put the phone thing away. It's just a trust exercise, everyone. Just a trust exercise. So, I'm here to talk to you about a couple of things, right? And what I want to talk about is brand, right? Creative. But really, to make those things happen, you have to have the culture within your business, your team, whatever it might be, to enable that happening. So we're going to talk a bit about that as well. Now, this was positioned as a workshop. Whether or not you or me know what that means is another thing. So we are going to, hopefully, I'm going to give you some tips, some models, some things to think about, and hopefully that concludes the concept of a workshop. I've never run a workshop with people with headphones on. I don't know how that concept works. So we're just going to roll some dice and let's see what happens. So the good news is that it is midday. Paul, midday. We are a beer brand. Let's have some beers. These are cold beers, so we give some out here. Just grab a beer. Oh, don't do that one. That one will be all wobbly, won't it? Here we go, have a beer. You want a beer? Have a beer. Pass them on. Don't worry, it's all good. Beers, you all right with the water? You have a beer, you ain't messing about, are you? All right, here we go, beers. Got some beers, you look like you want beers, don't you? All right, let's go through. I'm just going through this row. All right, here we go. The people over there, I'm really sorry, I've just started this angle, it's shit, isn't it? Hang on. It's a bit like when you're on a plane and you know you're not going to get the meal you want. Like I was in Thailand for 2 weeks. I got the plane back and they were like, what do you want to eat? And I said, oh, I'll have whatever it was, like pasta. And they went, we've only got Thai chicken curry left. I was like, I've literally eaten that for like 2 weeks. Do you know what I mean? Right, which one person on this side wants the last bit? You get it because your jacket's cool. There we go. All right, people. So, let's get on with it. Need my clicker. So, How are we going to sort brands and sort culture? And how is that going to give you the advantage? Well, we need to understand what the advantage is in the first place. So all businesses try to do this, right? Everyone tries to hire smart people, right? We're all smart. Wicked, we're in Shoreditch. There aren't any non-smart people in Shoreditch, right? We try to hire great strategists, great creatives, great marketeers, great finance people. Everyone's doing this, right? But the advantage to your business is to do this, right? So to drive high engagement, right? And traditionally that was called satisfaction, but I'm not interested if you're satisfied at work, right? I could be massively satisfied by doing nothing, right? I can be massively satisfied by going to work and just sort of sitting there and having a bit of a nice time, but that doesn't help us, right? What we want is high engagement and high productivity. And to be able to do that, we need to have a culture that breeds it. And if creative is important to you, and by creative, let's be clear about this, I'm not talking about advertising, I'm not talking about necessarily like people that draw stuff, creative thinking, how we challenge problems, how we overcome the obstacles in our culture that are standing in our way, that is about creativity. So how do we do that? How do we have one version of the brand, minimal politics, right? Like a little while ago, someone said to me something around, what was it? Meeting room silence, corridor violence. And I was like, is that even a fucking thing? Like, where the fuck is that a fucking thing? Like, it's unbelievable, right? Clearly it's a thing, it's got a fucking thing, so it's a thing, right? Like, mad. So let's cut that out. And how do you foster and develop top talent? And that's, of course, what we are, right? So how do we do that? Now, what I do know is that it can't be achieved by taking the traditional, old school, pre-COVID approach. And the reason I know that is because it didn't work, right? It simply didn't work. The concept built out of the Industrial Revolution of putting people in one place to do one thing at one time is not a concept that works. And I have a compelling, you can be the judge of whether or not it's compelling, I have a compelling reason why that didn't work. And the reason that I believe it didn't work is because we are not very happy, right? We are not happy in this country. So 1 in 4 people feel depressed or have anxiety. I am one of those 4 people, right? I am one of those 4 people that wake up some days and I'm not very happy and I ain't feeling great, right? We have people, YouGov survey last year, that said that lots of people, the majority of people, feel either fairly or very stressed at work, right? Now, you could argue that some pressure is good pressure, right? It is down to the individual and how they feel whether or not your pressure that you're putting on them is good or bad, or can be classified as fairly stressful or very stressful, right? Now, you can look at whatever statistics you want, and it will always support this argument. So my argument is, we have a problem, right? And that problem will not be solved by going backwards. That problem will only be solved by going forwards. Now, it is natural human behavior to cling to things that we know, right? Like, we like the concept of familiar. That is comfortable to us. We understand it. But we must challenge it. Now, no one has the answer to this question. I am not going to give you the answer today because I don't fully have it. I may have a couple of slides later on that sort of nudges towards the concept of what the answer might be, but whether or not you stitch them together and decide that that is the answer is completely up to you, right? But we have to challenge it. And why we have to challenge it is because the status quo doesn't work for future fit, right? So I'll give you one example, which is Blockbuster, right? So before I was the marketing director of Beavertown, I was one of the founders of GiftGaff, the mobile network, right? And when we launched, Blockbuster was the #1 place to get DVDs, previously videos for those people who are old enough, wonderful tape, feels nice, warm, to go there, right? Now, I will describe to you in 2023 the user experience of Blockbuster, right? And that user experience of Blockbuster was you had to leave your house, right, to watch a film, like fucking check that shit out before it's even started. You had to get on a tube, you had to get on a bus, you had to walk there, you had to drive there, whatever. You had to peruse a limited number of titles, right, of which there was only ever about 3 versions of, you know, Scream, 2009, that was a pivotal movie. They'd all be out, so then you had to spend an hour having a domestic argument with the person you went there with. And look, seriously, Blockbuster had the domestic argument down way before IKEA. Way, like, light years before IKEA, right? Before you're arguing about a flat pack in aisle 9, right? Blockbuster had that shit down. So you peruse a limited number of titles, you had to find the one you wanted, you had to pay for it, they tried to cross-sell and upsell, and the thing was, by the time you got home, it was 9 o'clock, you were tired, you were bored, you'd run out of time to watch a movie anyway, and you had to take the fucker back the next day, right? That is the user experience of Blockbuster. And I have a problem with that, and that is why they died, right? Other than one in somewhere in Canada that doesn't have broadband, apparently. I read that. Apparently somewhere in Canada doesn't have that. So we need to do something about that. But here's the problem. We are all very busy, right? I ain't doubt that at all. We are super, super busy people. Every time you get a notification, it takes you 20 minutes, whether on your phone or whether on email or whatever, it takes you 20 minutes to get back into that job you were doing because you've been distracted. And that job is over 50% worse from a quality perspective because you've been distracted, right? We are very busy people. But are we busy with the right things would be my question. Now you have, on average, dependent on country and wealth and health and lots of things, we have on average 30,000 days, 30,000? Yeah, 30,000 days on this planet, right? That's it. That's all we've got, right? Are we spending it appropriately? Let's take a look.
Doing? You okay? How are you? Hi, how you doing? You okay? How are you? Hi, how you doing? You okay? Hey, how are you? Hi, how you doing? You okay? Hey, how are you? Hi, how you doing? You okay? Hi, how you doing? You okay? Hey, how are you? How you doing? You okay? How are you? How are you? How you doing? You okay? How you doing? You okay? How you doing? How was your weekend? Hey, how are you? How are you? How you doing? How was your weekend?
Anyone feel that? Anyone feel that? Anyone can relate to that, right? So busyness is a problem, right? We are very busy, but are we busy with the right things? And that comes to life as things like back-to-back meetings, team conversations at 10 o'clock at night, 0 unread emails, and then you get to Friday and you're exhausted, right? And I know that you feel this, right? But it's not a medal, right? We don't win anything by being stressed. We don't win anything by getting to 5 o'clock and be like, I've been back to back since Monday, guys, I'm gonna get fucking fucked, right? Like, that's not a medal to win. Would you not want to be in those places? So we have to challenge it. Now, I would like you, again, it's less scary than the previous one, to get out your phone. I'd like you to look at your diary for next week. And I'd like you to see how busy it is, right? And I'm pretty sure by the looks on your faces, it may be very busy, right? Unless you're on holiday, and more power to you, right? And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to decline or delete a meeting, right? I'd just like you to do that because I think you need to clean your diary up, right? I think you need to be ruthless with that because we need to change this culture together. So it's busy, right? And busy isn't always good. I think we've got 2 things in addition to cancer neck oil, listening to me rant at you. I think there's 2 things that can help us, right? And I think the first one of those is around creativity. And I think the second one of those is around culture and how we focus on culture. Now, creativity is a fat word. It can mean many things to many people, right? And as I said, it's not about the people that do cool stuff, that draw stuff and make it look wicked, right? We are all creative in a way that we want to approach and think about things. So we should do that. Now, this is Pina Bausch. So for those people that don't know me or haven't listened to various podcasts I've done, I did a contemporary dance degree, right? Pina Bausch is a choreographer, very famous, very sort of held up as arguably, I would argue, the greatest choreographer of all time. She has done incredible pieces, and she is a huge hero of mine, right? So this is a piece that Pina Bausch has, which is called The Rite of Spring, right, after the classical piece of music. This is filmed in Senegal. I saw it at Sadler's Wells. I literally was crying. It's one of the most emotionally brutal pieces that I've ever seen, right? Now, the reason I'm showing this to you is because hopefully some of you have seen this before, and maybe some of you haven't, but it's a piece of creativity that you might not bump into in your normal life, right? And to me, I think it's important that we go out and find new and interesting pieces of creativity. With risk of offending anyone that works for Meta who's here, so I apologise up front. We've got a bit of a problem standing in our way of experiencing different pieces of creativity. And the problem that we have is because we are on our phones in an echo chamber of an algorithm serving us things back, right? I can't experience new things that challenge me, new things that I might disagree with, new things that I might like, if the algorithm just continues to serve me videos about football and gardening, right? Like, that's my shit, right? Like that and scented candles. I'm fucking down with scented candles, right? Like, I love the scented candles. You underestimate smell, don't you? You underestimate smell. Getting scented candles is the whole Instagram vibe. 175 newspapers worth of content we consume every day. Alistair down there told me yesterday that that is equivalent to scrolling with our thumbs, which do wear out, the length of the Eiffel Tower every day, right? Like, it makes your bones creak. You know what I mean? Now, over the weekend, when I was preparing to talk to you lovely people, I thought, the problem with people that stand up on a stage is they're quite self-righteous, right? And they often spend quite a lot of time just talking about stuff that they do. So I thought, I don't spend that much time on Instagram. I'll go on Instagram and find out how much time I spend there. Here's the fucking kicker. I spend 50 fucking minutes on Instagram, right? Completely unconstructive 50 minutes, right? That is football stuff and gardening stuff, right? Like, and scented, we talked about scented. Let's not do scented candles again, right? But that's it. Now, can anyone here beat 50 minutes, right? You whip your phones out. If you whip your phones out, have a quick look at profile. There's some data thing. I don't quite know how to get there. I was going to put the menu up, but it ruined the look of the slides, so I didn't do it, right? Can anyone beat 50 minutes? Anyone? We'll give a minute. If you beat 50 minutes, I'll send you a whole case of neck oil. That's what I do. Okay, first person. Hang on, here we go. 101 minutes. Can anyone else beat 101? 114. Hang on.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
We're late. What are we doing?
Okay, don't worry. Don't worry.
Sorry.
Don't worry about that. Right, can anyone beat 101? Hang on. 32, that's good. Well done, you. That's like pure anti-capitalism, you know? What have we got? No? Anyone else? 101. What have we got? 9 hours! 10 minutes. Okay, that's really good. Okay, so the lowest we've got is 10 minutes. The highest we've got is 9 hours and 52 minutes. Can anyone beat 4 hours? 4 days. Does it even measure in days? How does it measure in days? Hang on, let's find out what's going on. 4 minutes? Wow. 1 minute. 1 minute. That's incredible. Just delete the app. Delete the app. Doesn't matter. 1 minute. That's unbelievable, right? We've got 1 minute. Sorry. What have we got here? 0 minutes. Fucking let's have a round of applause for 0 minutes. I know we've got headphones on and it's like some sort of bizarre flight where we're going nowhere and we eventually just end up in Costa. But nonetheless, 0 minutes is good. Right, so 4 hours and, was it 4 hours and 59? 9 hours, okay. All right. But here's the great news, everyone. We've got more! Ray, we've got more coming today. We've got a competitor to Twitter. So that's fucking great news. So we can spend loads of minutes there as well. Okay, so let's get to the point. So thinking about creativity, how can we begin to think about a creative culture? We need to value creativity in a higher esteem than we currently do. I went to school in, well, according to Ofcom, it was the second worst school in the country, right? It was the 90s, so it was sort of screwdrivers before anything else, right? So if you did art, it was viewed as a cop-out, right? It was viewed as what you do instead of doing proper things like maths, right? Now, let's not get political, but we currently have a Prime Minister that, you know, prioritises maths over arts, right? I think that's fair to say. I'm not saying art isn't important, I'm just challenging the concept of prioritisation. But we don't take it seriously. We need to take it as seriously as the numbers within a business. And it isn't, right? Like, I challenge anyone to come up on stage and tell me that creativity is viewed in the same way, right? It isn't. I did a podcast recently that was talking about how within marketing, it's like whether or not you put out a great tweet, people are like, fucking hell, you see that tweet last night? That was fucking wicked, right? No one gives a shit beyond that, right? Do you know what I mean? I'm like, so we put out this tweet, it was really funny because it like something happened and then we responded to it and that was really good and you're just looking at people and they're going, yeah, you fucking seen the revenue, dickhead. Do you know what I mean? So we have to think about it in the same context. We have to prioritise it in that way. And we prioritise it in that way because we need to give it focus and attention. And as advertising people, creative marketeers, whatever you are, and you're all wonderful, beautiful people, we have to give it focus and prioritisation. And we have to be passionate about it as you are sitting here listening to me, right? So already I feel like we've got that box ticked. And we need to give it support, right? Back to the gardening analogy, if I don't support my garden, right, it really isn't that good, by the way. It really is not actually, I mean, literally, it's tiny. It's going to die, right? It is going to die, so we have to support it. And it's not something that can be bolted on at the end, right? I've spent long enough sitting in meetings with people sort of going, well, what's your idea? Well, you know, we'll just bolt the creative bit on the end, right? So we've got a brief, we're going to sell this product, it needs to do this, here's the time frame to do it. Stick the brief out, right? And like, let's see what comes back. Just rewind, right? You need to bake in that creativity at the right point. And of course, there's amazing campaigns that follow the previous approach that I said, but if you really want to do something different, I feel you need to support it in that way. And the other thing is creativity is not a problem, right? Don't view it as a problem to be solved. So I'm sure, I know what your roles are, right? But I'm sure you've all sat in meetings where someone somewhere has said, well, it's a creative problem, isn't it? Like, we've got this cool media plan, or we've got this influencer we want to talk to, we've got this PR strategy, it's a creative problem to solve. It's just kicking the fucking can down the road, isn't it, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, solve the problem there, bake it in early doors. And to do that, I think you need to have responsibility for your creative output. And here's the controversial thing about this statement, right? Potentially career limiting. I'm just wondering how hard I'm going to push on this point, right? So you are responsible, regardless of who you are, for what your brand represents and the equity that it is building. This world does not need more brands, more products, and more advertising. What it needs is things that emotionally and also rationally, right, impact with people. That is what we need. We need to emotionally connect with people with brands, right? Think about brands you love, right? There's a little wave, there's a little wave of emotion in you, right? That's what good brands do. I don't have a relationship with the petrol I put in my car, right? They have not emotionally connected to me. In theory, the car could emotionally connect with me, but I'm an awful driver, so that's not a zone we should go in there. But it's important. But the most important thing is to understand what your brand stands for, right? Because if you don't understand it, a consumer, a customer, a person, a normal person walking around by a glitter ball in a VIP garden. What's a VIP garden? Anyway, let's talk about that another time. Weird, isn't it? If I was a VIP, I would not want to be in that garden, right? So what is it that your brand represents, right? How can they understand that? And if you don't understand that internally and creatively, how are you going to execute? Fucking endless models, endless books on this, but ultimately, what is it that you want to do to emotionally connect with your audience? For me, and I might be wrong, right, but I'm holding the microphone and this very big clicker, right? I might be wrong, but how do you want to emotionally connect with people? And why emotionally don't you, my friend? It's okay, I'll tell you how long I've got left. 18 minutes and 46 seconds. Now, I may finish before that, right? And why is that important? Is because you want to add value to the conversation, right? You want to add value to that conversation. The world does not need advertising. What it needs is people adding value, right? Play is important. And I'll tell you why play is important. Because there is a perception that kids play and adults don't, right? Kids do dumb stuff, right? And adults don't. Now, I would love my 3.5-year-old son not to wake me up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I find that dumb. He finds that funny. That is the difference between children and adults, right? But kids' brains, 2-year-olds' brains, have 2 times the ability for learning than an adult, right? And adults don't formalise their brain fully till they're in their mid-20s, like 25, right? So there's a huge growth curve. So you wouldn't expect an adult to lie, you wouldn't expect an adult to like mug people off, you wouldn't expect an adult to exploit a situation for their own gains, because that would be weird, because that's stuff that kids do, right? So, so play is important. Now, if I bring that slightly closer to home and I talk about Beavertown, we are a beer brand, I'm sure you're familiar with Neck Oil. We try to add play into what we do, right? So whether or not it's just a standard pint glass and you're just making it look slightly more interesting and shareable, and I can't statistically prove this, but this is the most stolen pint glass in the country, right? We were in a bar recently with some of the team, and we're standing by the bar and someone was there and she was just putting the empty pint glasses in her bag, right? It was amazing. It was like, lots of people pop up on social and talk to us about it, right? So playful. Right, it's just playful. And someone asked me recently, like, what was the strategy behind the pint glass? And it was like, well, Nick, our creative designer, just wanted to do something he thought was cool, right? And I don't really want to use that language, so I think it's very trite, but it's as simple as that. Now, Neck Oil is another thing. We just try to be playful by creating stories, right? We just want to be playful by taking pop culture and putting it in places where pop culture wasn't before. And we want to do playful stuff, like Oil Your Neck, which we're launching this week. This is a sun cream, so Paul and Alistair are handing out this sun cream. The problem with going to the beer garden is you get a little bit overexcited because the sun's come out and you forget to look after yourself from a suntan lotion burn perspective. And let's be honest, burning is not good for multiple reasons, right? So we were like, okay, well, let's create a sun cream. You can get it in pubs and various other places. Please enjoy. It's all proper stuff, it's like SPF 50. So just playful, right? But if you think about it from a marketing perspective, like pub gardens, summer, we want to be there. We want people to be drinking our beer and talking about us. Let's give them something that creates another conversation. To the previous slide, it adds value, right? It adds value because it's giving you something that's helpful. Now, we've also recently done something. Now, when I was talking to the tech people earlier, there is a potential this next slide is very loud, right? We did turn the volume down on it, so I'm just giving a little bit warning. So I'm going to play it, and let's see if you... So on that concept of creativity and adding value, I said to the team in December, I want us to make a music video that's just a summer banger, right? I didn't mind what genre it was, I didn't mind who the artists were. I wanted us to make a music video, and the reason I wanted us to make a music video is we do a lot of advertising, right? I like it, right? But we need to add more value to the conversation than just advertising. So if we do something that we know people are going to consume as a piece of content in channels where they're open to consume it, YouTube, Instagram, etc., with a band that is highly relevant, new album coming out, massive PR, playing Glastonbury, big summer tour, might be coming back in the autumn, right? But that feels like a good tie-up for us. That's a really important time for our brand. So how can we add some value to the conversation? And we did that by creating, essentially taking that visual world from the can, right, and put it in moving action to a fucking banging soundtrack. It's really, literally that simple. 72 times more shared than any other content we've ever made, right? And that's not because we've got a low bar, just for people that might, come at me with that. It's not because we've got a low bar. Okay, the last thing I'm going to talk about is around culture. Because we've talked about creativity and about how important that is. And we've talked about some of the challenges around how we do that, which is around having a point of view, understanding your brand, doing things that add value. But I'm going to talk a bit about culture, right? Because ultimately, my whole vibe is, you've got kind of the world of advertising, marketing, PR, creative over there, right? If you don't be the heart of a culture of an agency or a business, right, you're never going to win, right? You're never going to win. So you have to be able to understand the world of creativity and the world of culture to have a change. So creativity, doing stuff, being playful is important, but there are two main obstacles standing in your way and my way and our way of making a change. And the first one is you, and the second one is your boss, right? And I'm sure this is awkward. He works for him. This is awkward. I didn't think this out, right? Now, in my 1 in 4 moments of anxiety and depression, I've read a library of books to try and help me out of bed and into a better place. And one of the books I was given to read was this book that has this pretty bold title. It's about reinventing your life. I read it quite a few years ago. I was working in marketing, living in London. I've read it. I'm still working in marketing, still living in London. So, don't judge the book on that, right? But what it does is it talks about the basic needs of children. And the basic needs of children around basic safety, connection, understanding, the ability to express yourself, knowing where the tram tracks are that you should or shouldn't be able to run in a road if you're my son, right? Loves running in a road, loves it, right? But Instagram parenting, if your parents, tells you you're not allowed to shout at them. So you can't be like, get out of the fucking road, Louis, you're about to get run over, get out. So you have to go, Louis, there is a car coming and let me explain physics to you. Right? Doesn't always work. Now, if I look at some of the stuff that Google did around big, massive global study around what are the constituent parts for a team, they're not dissimilar, right? Children's needs at a baby and toddler level and the needs of a team are not dissimilar. Now, that's not to say because teams are childlike, because they're not. It's to say that you need to form a team in an appropriate way to make it function, have a good time, and deliver what you want, which is ultimately, and flourish, right? This is, or thrive, as the slide says. This is ultimately what you want to do with kids. So safety is up there, the concept to be able to make mistakes, the concept to be able to understand what is expected of you, the concept to be able to understand other people, right? You can understand how that relates to children. So that's the first thing. The second thing is more about you, right? Now, we're going to go light, right? We're going to go light on this. So, you need to identify your personal purpose. If you can identify why the fuck you get out of bed on a Monday at 7 o'clock in the morning on a rainy day in January where you don't have any money and you've started drinking and you should have been doing dry January, you'll be in a good place. Now, there is this Japanese model which is called Ikigai. Apologies to anyone that speaks Japanese, that pronunciation is awful, right? Just look it up. I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but essentially, what is it that you love? What are you good at? What does the world need? And what can you be paid for? And if you can understand those things, then you can start to build out your personal purpose. And the reason that personal purpose is important, right, is because if you can take your personal purpose and combine it with the thing that we do most, which is not spend time with our family and loved ones, it's not have a good time, it's work, right, then you're going to have a better time than if you don't do that, right? Now, have I done that? Not 100%. Am I a bit of a mess? Yeah, totally, right? But if you can start to do those things to identify your personal purpose with your business purpose, it really helps. And you should be ruthless about it, right? It is more important than the email that you just got. And I know you've just got an email and it's that sort of like awkward, oh, fuck, you know. You never guess what fucking Susan's emailed again. Bloody hell. Why is she chasing me? Right? So to help you, have a to-do list, right? We all have those. But have a to think about list, right? What things you just want to think about. Now, interestingly, because we are so addicted to our mobile phones, now I did launch and work in the mobile phone industry, so I am as guilty, if not more guilty, as anyone else, right? Those moments where you're just standing there, like outside a changing room while your wife, partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, gets changed in a shop, you're on your phone. Those moments are the moments where your brain is looking to solve the problems that you have, right? But we fucking delete that by looking at gardening, right? So we need to like give those moments and we need to be able to bake them in. So yes, of course, we have a to-do list, but let's have a think about list. And maybe if we stretched it further, and this is like, you know, maybe have a to-be list, right? If we buy into that, right? Maybe we should do that as well. Now, in closing, let's talk about, so we talked about you, right? Let's talk about your boss. I don't know your bosses, I'm sure they're all wonderful, right? Let's talk about your boss. Everyone has a boss. Gallup, who are a huge, global, wonderful research insight business, say that bosses have a 70% impact on your work experience, right? Have a great boss, 70% is going to be great. Have a bad boss, 70% is going to be shit, right? And the thing about bosses is we all have one. Like families, we all have one. Now, let's just play a quick game. So, when you get an email from a workmate on a Sunday, and we've all sent them, I've sent them, you've sent them, it's Sunday night, you've sent an email to someone, what does that person think? Does that person think, wow, I'm so pleased you sent me this email, I'm going to stop watching Country File with Matt Baker, and let's not talk to me about Matt Baker, that man is a fucking gift to the world, right? So I'm going to stop watching Country File, I'm going to drop what I'm doing, and I will respond to you. I'm so pleased that you have pointed out that you would like me to take action on a Sunday night. Brilliant, thank you. Or do you think, arsehole, right? Now, we've all sent emails on Sunday, I have probably been an awful boss at times. Sometimes I've been a good boss. I try. We all try, right? We are not perfect human beings. But I would have a guess that maybe we should think about, do we want, are our actions how we want to be treated, right? Now, everything I've said might be really heavy. So what can we do to dilute it a little bit? And here, my friends, is the awkward truth. We just need to be a bit nicer to ourselves and each other, right? We just need to be a little bit nicer. I know what you're working on is really fucking important, and I get it, right? I get it, and I get it matters to you, and I'm pleased that you're passionate, and I'm passionate. But maybe, just maybe, there's an opportunity for us to be a little bit nicer to ourselves and each other. And I will challenge you, just a one thing, like, instead of asking, you know when you go, right, so you come in on a Monday, you might be on Zoom or whatever, right, and you go, hey, how you doing? How was your weekend? Yeah, great, thanks. How was your weekend? Yeah, really good, thanks. Yeah, I did, I went to the park, I went to the pub. Like, cool, right? Those things are important, right? They are the social norms of how we've constructed our environments that we work in. Ask people, instead of how they are, how they feel, right? And I promise you, you will get a deeper and better connection with that person. If you manage people, if you lead a business, how do you feel today, right? I guarantee, just try it once, right? Even if you think everything I've said in the last 40 minutes or so is bullshit, right? I don't mind, cool, that's cool, right? Just try that one thing, right? How do you feel today? And I believe that it will have an impact on you and the person that you're talking to. So treat people like you want to be treated. That's very, very important. And why it's important is this. What you do every day matters more than what you do every once in a while, right? What you do every day matters more than what you do every once in a while. So we need to make sure what we're doing matters. What I would like you to do, totally up to you, is get a scrap of paper, whatever, right? I'd like you to write on it what your ambition is in the future, right? Where do you want to get to? What do you want to do? And more importantly, I want you to write down, how do you want to feel when you get there? And I'd like you to write down your email address. You don't have to do this. This is a GDPR nightmare, people, okay? It's a GDPR nightmare. And if you want, hand it to me, I'll be hanging about, and I'm just going to connect groups of people and see if we can make those things happen. We took our phones out at the beginning to break down that barrier because we're all people, right? We're just people in life trying to do stuff. So if we can share where we want to get to, maybe that might help. Now, if that's a bit much, there's a simple way to put this. Be like old Kanye, right? Don't be like new Kanye. Be like old Kanye. Here's a QR code if you want to connect to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tom, thank you. We'd like to take any questions from the crowd. Do we have any questions for Tom? Okay. I mean, I can ask you, Tom, what was it like working with Queens of the Stone Age on your project?
Their manager in LA is the single most rock and roll person I've ever met in my entire life. She was amazing, and I loved her within about 2 seconds of meeting her. She's Queens of the Stone Age manager, Foo Fighters manager, and she dropped a C-bomb within 10 seconds and terrified me, and I adored her. So yeah, they were wicked. really cool guys, like massive album, music video. It's on YouTube if you haven't seen it. I think it's unique. I think obviously music and brands isn't necessarily unique, but the concept of taking our visual world and putting their song into it, I believe, is something quite unique. So super exciting, amazing, going really well. Yeah, great guys.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Any further questions for Tom? Okay, well, can I say, oh, we've got one, where are we? Over here. I'm on my way. Hold on. I've got it. Got it? Right.
Hi, Rosemary Moth from MIQ. This is probably a really niche question, but as far as like channels, as far as programmatic, connected TV, social media, what do you think is the highest priority channel for the brand in the next year or so?
Yeah. So we do a lot of outdoor, and the reason we do a lot of outdoor is we're a very visual brand, right? So we try to take huge visual, frames, palettes, and basically put the brand onto those. So outdoor is huge for us. We've never done TV. We only recently, through things like Queens of Stone Age, have got the brand moving before it's static. So that's been an interesting challenge for the brand. But yeah, we're exploring all types of stuff as we sort of scale up and grow as a brand. When I took it over 3 years ago, we'd never done any advertising, right? So we're sort of dipping our toe in the water. One thing that is really interesting is what we're seeing loads, particularly on some of the higher production stuff we're doing, like Halloween and Queens of Stone Age. Connected TV is huge, right? Like YouTube mastheads, people watching it and wanting to watch it on decent speakers rather than shitty phone speakers is like a big thing for us. So yeah, lots of focus on outdoor and then basically trial and error in different channels.
Any more questions for Tom? Okay. Oh yes, microphone is coming to you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Nikita. I work for Meta. I don't. It's a bad joke. But I did want to know, at the beginning, you said that your brand needs to stand for something and that the culture needs to come around that. What do you think, in several words, your brand stands for, and what levers do you pull to drive advocacy for your brand?
Internally, or just in general?
In general.
Okay. So I guess from our perspective, there's a couple of things. Craft beer, and I think craft beer is sort of grown up. Basically, I don't really think it's craft beer. It's all about giving people better products in the places where they wanted those products, right? So channels like the pub are really important to us, and trying to stand out and do different things. So that idea of differentiation is important. The idea that really, because of the can design, creativity, storytelling, which I know everyone fucking says, but you know what I mean? Like, the cans are stories, so it kind of helps. So those two things are important, and advocacy is the visual identity and iconography. I'm not over-exaggerating to say once a week someone pops up with a Beavertown tattoo, right? Like, literally, whole legs, arms, everything, right? Because the iconography is so strong, because that iconography looks like band t-shirts, right? So we've already put the brand into pop culture, right? And that's somewhere that brands are always trying to push into, right? Big Coke global thing about music that they did, took loads of artists in the music video, we're always trying to push in. So that concept of difference, creativity, right? And bringing that to life in real life ways, be that tattoos or pubs or whatever, they're the sort of three pillars that are key to us.
Right. I'm afraid that's all we got time for today, but a huge and massive thanks to Tom. I can say on behalf of MadFest, personally, that was probably the most entertaining talk of the last 3 days. Thank you, Tom.
Pleasure.